falsehood, you're faced with two options. You can accept it or you can reject it. The basis upon which we take one of these actions is a product of our critical thinking capabilities and a desire to know what is true instead of confirming our bias. A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. On Brainstorm, we choose the hard truths over the comforting lies. Reason, compassion, skepticism. This is the Brainstorm Podcast.
To those listening live or to our patrons, welcome back. For those listening weekly, welcome to the Shift to Reason Radio, the Brainstorm production where we take current events and important skeptical topics and try to analyze them critically. I'm Cory, and I'm joined by Sarah.
Hello.
Dan.
Yo.
Lisa will be back soon.
Hello.
And, of course, the always amazing Dave.
Still here.
And you're going to be covering a story tonight, too.
Yeah, I'm doing double duty again.
Double duty.
Not quite like last time. Last time was real
he
double
said
duty.
Yeah, that's right.
Call it duty.
Yeah. We're broadcasting live from Roman Empire Studios in Regina, Saskatchewan, and today is September 28th, 2018. So we're going to try out a new segment, and it's called Crackpot Audio, where I'm going to kind of introduce the clip a little bit, and then we're going to hear some audio from some random crackpot, and we'll react to it, and hopefully Dave can pause it when we need him to.
Oh, I can.
Good stuff.
He is amazing.
He is amazing.
Always.
Yeah.
It's little known. It's actually, we don't say that part, but it's the amazing pauser Dave. He's a pauser. Like that, we don't say that part, but that's what he's amazing at.
Amazing pauser.
I know how to pause stuff.
He's really good.
He's awesome at pausing. Okay, so for a little bit of background on this clip, Mikhail Graves is the former frontman of the Misfits, and he has a number of solo albums out over the last few years and was supposed to do a show in Edmonton for the Up and Downtown Festival on October 6th. But after they saw his blog and Twitter feed, they decided to cancel his show. The artistic director, Brent Oliver, along with the board, decided they didn't want to have Mikhail Graves perform. This audio is from the YouTube channel by one Paul Joseph Watson, someone who Mikhail Graves had retweeted. So I guess enjoy a little bit of this.
Another example of communist China's social credit score arriving in the West. Mikhail Graves, former vocalist of the iconic punk band The Misfits, had his sold-out shows at next month's Up and Downtown Music Festival in Edmonton cancelled. Why? Did he commit a grave crime? Is he the latest victim of the Me Too movement? Did he fall terribly ill? No, he retweeted Paul Joseph Watson. That's right. Graves' shows were cancelled because he retweeted yours.
He didn't just retweet Paul Joseph Watson. It's a mischaracterization, right? He retweeted Alex Jones, Paul Joseph Watson. He writes blogs about, or has blogs up on his page about curing mental illness with alternative medicine. Like, he's not a well man. So,
can I just say that was some amazing pausing?
That was some amazing pausing.
But wait, did he back up the 3 seconds when
I
Cory
don't
was
know.
talking
We'll have to
also?
see how what is the audio.
All right, let's see when the
cred
unpause
is.
comes back in.
It's going to be pretty random, but here we go.
Okay.
Right, Graves' shows were cancelled because he retweeted yours truly, Infowars, Breitbart, and defended. Oh, wait for it. He defended free speech.
Okay, let's take a break there.
Artistic.
That's not why his show was canceled.
Can I just say, I actually started listening to this because you put in the show notes and I was trying to be a good human,
right.
But I was so irritated. I think I paused it at that point. I was like, fuck it, I don't care. I'll hear it tonight. It doesn't matter. It's so annoying. It's just his His smug tone.
And the
InfoWars.
gotcha
What's so
attitude.
wrong with InfoWars? It's the worst. It's
Everything
the worst.
is wrong.
Didn't they cancel their Twitter account or their YouTube?
Twitter, Facebook, YouTube,
think it was-
Vimeo.
Everyone
they're
agrees
gone.
they're awful. Vimeo. Jesus.
No, everyone hates free speech.
What
That's why
about
they
their
cancel them.
MySpace page?
I bet they got kicked off of
Going
MySpace too. MySpace.
Sorry.
All right. Let's,
He defended free speech. The festival's artistic director, the guy who cancelled him, Brent Oliver, said this. It's the support of Alex Jones. If you go in through his tweets and replies, he's tweeting at Hillary Clinton, calling her a criminal. He's retweeting some British right-wing dude that I don't even want to know his name. And that's me. It's all, again, it's so close to the sun of guys like Richard Spencer, president of the white nationalist think tank National Policy Institute, that I just don't feel comfortable with it.
Okay,
I should
can
also
we-
be clear, Oliver
hold
says,
on there.
this is not about politics. Oh, yeah, right. I understand.
the artistic director gets to decide who he does and does not want at his festival.
He's
The
also
end.
making it sound like some sort of overly emotional, not comfortable, but that's just a way that business people say
Yeah.
things
Yeah, I'm not
nicely.
comfortable.
Like when I tell my ex that you can't have my kid for 2 straight weeks, I'm like, I'm not comfortable with you doing that. I'm not trying to really talk about my feelings.
Right. Yeah, you're hedging the way you actually are feeling about this. It's
And so it's just the alternative to go fuck yourself. That's all it is. Like,
that's right.
anyways.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's absolutely. All right, let's go, keep going.
Here, Oliver says, this is not about politics. Oh, yeah, right. I understand conservative politics, but this is not conservative politics. To me, this is alt-right hate, and that was the feeling of the board and contrary to our policy, so we removed him. But wait, neither I or Alex Jones are alt-right. I
Okay,
make
let's
videos.
I had a feeling Cory was going to stop it there.
Okay. Yeah, you fucking are. Like, when you recite the exact same things as the alt-right and you are promoted by the alt-right, like, what else do you think you are? It's...
I mean, I guess alt-right has become pejorative, but some people don't want to be called that. But the thing is, if the rest
Stop
of us
being that.
mean that when we say alt-right,
yeah.
then you are.
And that's what it is. Yeah.
You're highly right. You're very, very right.
But
Maybe not
it also
alt-right.
refers to this new right thing,
Yeah.
right? It's not the old
Neo-right.
Reaganism, like,
Right,
well,
yeah.
it's a different right. It's not
the-
George W. Bush. It's different.
Yeah. It's not just necessarily the white nationalists, although they are in there. It's all the fucking young dudes who believe in this weird right-wing crap. All right.
I or Alex Jones are alt-right. I make videos attacking the alt-right. So yes, it is about politics, and yes, you cancelled his gigs because he's a conservative and you're an intolerant moron. This is what Mikhail Graves, the singer, said. I'm in the game of raising people up and giving them a victorious attitude and telling them it's okay to be you and to be strong and to believe in themselves and the people around them. I want to lift people up. I'm not looking to tear people down. Sounds
unless
pretty
they're-
hateful to me. Someone...
Unless they're not white or dudes. Like, that's... Yeah, he's...
That's still a lot of people, Cory, that he's trying to lift.
Yeah, that's
a lot
right.
of- and
Same
they're
people
probably
that Jordan
heavier
Peterson likes to
than
lift
the
up.
small women.
I feel like there's
a lot of
some
lifting.
I feel like there's some kind of dog whistles in there. Like
yeah.
the term victorious, I think, is
Right.
kind of white nationally. I think the not being ashamed of who you are is kind of white nationally.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole like
The
the
okay
white
to be
power.
white
sort of-
thing.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's definitely some.
Yeah. Okay.
tear
Maybe
people down.
I'm not being generous.
Sounds pretty hateful to me. So once again, we see conservatives being socially and financially punished because of their political beliefs. Because God forbid should any celebrity stray out of line and be allowed to hold diverse opinions. No,
Hold on.
they must be punished.
Does he think that diverse opinions means everybody agreeing that nothing should change? Because that's what it sounds like to me. Yes, conservatives mean don't want anything to change. So I don't know. That doesn't seem very diverse to me.
They do want more tax breaks for the wealthiest.
That's true.
But
And less rights for women too. Like we've got way too. We can
that
vote
could
and
be
shit. Like
could be constituted as a change, regressive change.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Now, a similar thing happened to the American tennis player Tennis Sandgren, who was also subjected to a media inquisition merely for following some right-wingers on Twitter. Thou shalt not attempt to deviate from our monoculture. Thou shalt not be allowed to express independent
I love
thought.
the monoculture. I thought you loved monoculture. I don't understand now.
Was that a tennis player who was named Tennis?
Yes,
That's awesome.
100%. That's his last name, and I think
that
it's
is
real. I didn't
awesome.
look into it, but it's amazing. Yeah.
Blew my mind. That's my new favorite tennis player. Sorry, Denis Shapovalov. You're done. You're done.
Yeah. The monoculture thing got me too. I mean, what? I don't know. That's exactly what they fight
You love
for.
only one culture.
Yeah.
You don't like any other culture.
Western
I don't-
culture. White people.
Yeah. Male. Not poor.
Right.
All of
Okay, sorry. I don't mean to. Can I just? I don't understand the importance. What thing in Edmonton was he not like? It's Edmonton. What was the thing he wasn't
the music
allowed to?
festival.
It's just the Up and Downtown Festival. It's just a random music festival.
And like they don't understand that like if you're hosting a conference or a concert or something like that, I can just disinvite you because I don't like the look of your face. Like like that's my right as an organizer. So they're just saying, oh, he's being penalized, and yeah, it could be for anything. The fact that it's for a good reason.
But was he
is
supposed to
not
perform
that bad.
music, or was it like a?
Yeah.
But I think he has some hateful lyrics.
I mean, like
and
when
such.
people get like disinvited from talking at universities, I think that's a
Yeah.
different kettle of fish because that's
Yeah.
got public funding, and those are meant to be.
It's certainly
and
much
open.
grayer
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
But
And that I can more
it
get
is
behind.
kind of
Yeah.
weird for a guy not to be able to perform music unless there was something hateful in the music.
And I think there is, yeah.
Is there?
I
Okay.
think that's...
It's just bad music.
Well,
And I don't like his face.
Yeah, we realized you suck. and
But
we
in
don't want you.
Edmonton, you kind of got to take what you get, right? I mean,
Apparently not. But I think I read something in what you sent that he still is getting to play.
Yeah,
so
there's a
he's
whole
not
other-
at all
there's another
penalized
club
or-
that's-
yeah.
yeah.
We're gonna
So-
start our own concert.
Then we won't let you in,
Conservatives and white people.
And you're not invited.
and we'll bring our torches. Oh wait, no, we won't. We'll stop doing
Oh,
that.
we learned our
They
lesson.
made fun of us.
We learned our lesson the first time.
Leave the torches at home.
We bought Walmart out of tiki torches.
All right. Do we got much left of that?
I hope not.
Yeah. Let's see where I left off here.
A thing happened to the American tennis player Tennis Sandgren, who was also subjected
We're
to a
back a little
media
bit, that's okay.
inquisition
Oh, yeah, it's first.
merely for following some right-wingers on Twitter. Thou shalt not attempt to deviate from our monoculture. Thou shalt not be allowed to express independent thought. Because we're so tolerant, so progressive. Listen, I've lost count of the amount of people who tell me, either in person or online, both celebrities and non-celebrities, in journalism, in Hollywood, in sports, in business, how they're all terrified of letting slip their conservative political beliefs because they know they'd be hounded out of their careers. This is the de facto communist Chinese social credit scheme being implemented in the West.
Okay.
Conservatives, libertarians, being
That's a good place
socially
to stop, I
ostracized,
think.
God, you just kind of went off the rails.
Just keep
This is the Chinese.
spiraling.
Chinese conservative does a mumbo jumbo, every does a buzzword, left wing, right wing.
you're good at accents.
No,
Do that
I'm
Graham
not.
guy again.
Lindsey Graham. Well, I think that we just need to be a little more tolerant.
Yeah, you're good.
And I watch a lot of
approve.
John Oliver.
think-
John Stewart was where I learned most of my impressions. So bless him.
I
Miss him
think,
so much.
I think I've had just about enough of Paul Joseph Watson for
You need
today.
to find shorter audio clips. if you're going to force us to
There's
listen
only
to
1
this
minute. There's only
more
1 minute.
than...
Yeah.
Wait,
There's
1 minute left?
There's a minute left.
1 minute. 1 minute. Come on,
All right,
can
you guys, we have to shut up for 1 minute and get this
Persevere.
clip done.
Persevere.
Do it.
This is the de facto communist Chinese social credit score being implemented in the West. Conservatives, libertarians being socially ostracized, financially sabotaged, and having their careers jeopardized simply for daring to think for themselves. Being refused financial services, being refused bank accounts for engaging in hate. What constitutes hate? Anything that challenges far-left progressive dogma. This is where we're at. This is the culmination of contrived moral panic and frenzied political hysteria. If you want to support the Misfits vocalist Mikhail Graves, he's playing
I think we can just cut the end off.
One that actually supports diversity.
Is far left progressive an oxymoron? Oh, no, wait, never mind. Far right, I was thinking.
Can I just say, I mean, if what he was saying is true, it would be bad, right? It's okay for people to have different opinions and to express, like, it's not the same as having hateful opinions or, calling whatever Sandy Hook a freaking hoax or whatever, I mean, that shit's awful, but like, it's okay to be conservative. Some of my best friends are conservatives. That's okay. It's, and
as long as they do it in their own home.
Well, that's right.
They can each keep those views to themselves.
It's great to have conversations with people and if my perspectives are so frail that they can't even survive a conversation with a conservative person, then what? Like obviously I don't have a very good position, right? So I don't. Yeah, I think he would be if what he was saying is true, and I sincerely doubt it just because of how he doesn't support it with any actual evidence. He would have a point.
I would argue that like the thing that he's saying, this imaginary cabal of people who are stopping conservatives from having bank accounts and jobs and getting that's not a thing.
I would think not. If you could prove it was a thing, I would be like, that's bad.
Right.
You should not be able to get a job because you're a conservative.
But if you look at that the actual Chinese credit score thing, shit's pretty terrifying. He's equating it to this, and it is not. Right. It's its own actually terrifying thing.
He's shooting himself in the foot because his own shitty way of making an argument and the smugness and the stupidity. He's just in the over the top bull. I mean, I'm just immediately discounting everything he's saying.
And the visuals he used for the
the hyperbole with the Chinese credit score thing. I mean,
fun stuff.
Just stupid.
I don't know if we'll do that very often, but every once in a while, I think it'll be fun.
But Davis has to show off his pausing skills.
Yeah. He does have to show off his pausing skills.
One time I'll remix it for you.
That would be great.
We could auto-tune the rant.
Do it.
That would make it palatable.
Can you really do that?
A little bit of dubstep behind it.
It would take some work, but you could do that.
Like the bedroom intruder song.
What?
Sure, yeah.
Yes.
That
he's climbing in the window, knocking your people up, trying to get them so you get to hide kids, hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife. So good.
Raping everybody out here.
I had that on my running playlist for quite a while.
Oh, that was so long ago now, man.
I don't care. It's still cool.
It's so old.
That was before this podcast existed.
Auto-tune the news.
Yeah. All right, so let's do some religious nuttery.
Cornerstone. This might be new to some of you. Scripture says that even our righteous deeds are as filthy rags to God. So even the good things that you do, even things like feeding the hungry and clothing the poor and taking in widows and orphans, as nice as those things are, if not done from the place of obedience to and a relationship with God, are completely worthless and disgusting to God. If you're not daily walking in a place of relationship to God, then the news that we have to bring you is that you're on your way to hell right now.
Corey, the more times you repeat that, the more I start agreeing with him. Is anyone else on board?
No.
Breaking news. All right. I got the religious nuttery section this week. So I just want to recount a little story here, tell you guys about a little small incident that went down in Alberta. So I'll try to break it down for you. A group of Jehovah's Witnesses, they kind of got a little panicked about Armageddon. Of course, I mean,
as one does.
Yeah, as one may do from time to time. So it is said that the group believed that the Great Tribulation had happened, and that November 6th was the Armageddon. So this had probably just been a few days before that. Looks like it started on about November 2nd. So as they believed that the Armageddon was about to happen, they did what any good Jehovah's Witness would do, and they immediately decided that they needed to save some other people. So they rushed off to both find safety and to save a neighboring family. So they did the only logical thing, which was to immediately get naked.
That's the first step.
Clutch each other in a car under some blankets. Now they're a family, of course, very, very close. Got to keep warm. It's November in Canada. And they kidnapped their neighbors, forced them to get into the trunk, one of them, and the other one accidentally slammed her hand in the door while they were forcing her in with her 6-week-old son. So, I mean, so far we haven't really gotten to the nuttery part. This is all just very
normal
family
behavior.
Very standard behavior for anyone who believes that the world's about to end. Yeah, so the mother who was driving was actually the only one that did have clothes. The others, it was decided that the Armageddon, for being 4 days away, was so imminent that they did not have time to get dressed. So, of course, also
they weren't already dressed.
You know what? I mean,
they ran out of there in such a hurry they didn't have time.
Yeah, that's
they
exactly
just hang out in their house as a family naked.
Yeah.
So they also forced the
Cory,
people
you
that
don't?
No, I do not.
it doesn't specifically say in here, but it seems like the people that they kidnapped probably weren't Jehovah's Witnesses, but they were trying to do some sort of a on the road conversion. They forced them to chant Jehovah 10 times, which
Dan, is this a real story?
Hey, this is my religious nuttery section.
This was actually in the Regina Leader Post.
I have not gotten to the nuttery part yet.
I feel like you're over-prepared for this podcast. Who are you?
I let my son read this, and he goes, "Dad, they believe the police were monsters?" And I was like,
wait, you haven't gotten there. You're giving it away. Get there. Sorry.
Kind of like a Segway kind of thing or something. Anyways, so the mother was dressed. She drove in this BMW. Again, they needed to get out so quickly that she actually drove through the garage door like a fucking cartoon, and it's just like just crashed right through it. Could not wait the 6 seconds for it to open.
But they had days, according to them.
Yes,
but they probably needed to get somewhere that would take days.
They just realized that it was days away, and when that realization hit, that's when the sense of urgency set in.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
totally.
Totally. The end of the story better be that there was some mental illness diagnosed or something. Like, I swear to God.
In fact, I was rather dismayed that this story was even put under religious nuttery. This seems all standard. I don't understand.
You can't say that you wouldn't act the same way if the world was going to end.
Moving on, before they realized the Armageddon was happening, one of the teams recalls watching movies, but also hearing screaming and banging and seeing ashes in the air. So, I mean, all standard stuff. This is just a family Sunday night hanging out, watching movies, throwing ashes in the air.
The end of the world's coming. Okay, let's go.
This is all standard stuff. Anyways, so they kidnap these people. They make them chant Jehovah, but they didn't actually slam the trunk latch all the way shut. So when they stopped, the man was able to get out. He was able to somehow extract his daughter from the vehicle with the baby and hop into a passing truck that stopped to help them. Doesn't end there, though. These people really, really, really wanted to save this family. So they followed the truck, rammed into it from behind, and then actually managed to slam themselves into the ditch. So it's Canada, so who shows up? The Mounties on their horses and shit, for all you U.S. people listening. They're not actually on horses. But the group then continued to chant Jehovah and refused to get out of the car, at times clinging to the vehicle and clinging to each other to stay in there. One of the teams claimed later to believe that the police were actually monsters that would kill them. Now, here's the strangest thing, because what's the first word that comes to your head of what's happening here?
Drugs.
Yes. The official court documents, like the agreed upon documents that were filed in court, actually state, everyone agrees, drugs and alcohol had nothing to do with this.
I was thinking like genetic schizophrenia or something. Yeah. The whole family has some sort of mental illness.
That seems more logical, actually, because I mean, they believe the police officers were demons and we're definitely trying to kill them. And the strangest part, I mean, this is straight out of a movie. One of the officers in the SUV said that they displayed extreme strength and actually were completely unaffected by pepper spray. So they're spraying them with
power of Christ.
They're naked and they're spraying naked people with like that would burn your.
And listen to this: they were shot with tasers between 2 to 4 times before they finally relented. Although even after that, one of them slid under the vehicle trying to get away and had to be tied to with a strap and pulled out. So The neighbors later told police that the group seemed demonized and not in their right minds, which
I would certainly hope so. Yeah.
And a judge had ordered pre-sentence reports and risk assessments, which could possibly include psychological tests.
Were there children involved in this family?
You know what? It was a mother who was 35, had taken her young daughters so I'm assuming the daughters would have been like teens, and then taking them there to visit the 20-year-old nephew and 30-year-old wife, all of them which later upended in the vehicle. The father claims that potentially they had unknowingly drank some hallucinogenic tea. Now that sounds really likely, but the court documents
at least is an explanation.
Yeah,
well, it might not be something that shows up on a talk screen or something. That's even on some weird
talk screen doesn't even matter. But it's that everyone in the case agreed that drugs and alcohol was not,
because they don't want to admit to having
I guess. But anyways, I still don't see how this falls under religious nuttery. This sounds like something that could happen to anybody. This could be you next week, Lisa.
Yeah, it's probably going to be me.
When the Armageddon comes, I plan to be naked and racing through the field in
trying to save people
with
Jehovah, of course.
And if you're just letting everyone else burn, you're a bad person.
Here's my question with the extreme religious people. Why do they always put Armageddon so soon? It's so easily falsifiable.
It's more motivating.
Why not make it in 10 years and then hopefully everyone will forget by then?
Because if you've got to do an essay, it's a lot more motivating if it's due
tomorrow.
Next week versus a year from now. If you're working on a project, trust me, I've written a thesis. That shit didn't get done.
I think it's also the build-up. If you put it 10 years away, you got this massive build-up, but then it's also a massive letdown. If you put it a year away, you don't have as much of a build-up, so it's not as much of a letdown.
And, we just kind of calculated wrong. Yeah, it's actually next year.
On a 10-year build-up, I mean, you got to kind of kill yourself. Really, honestly. If you get it wrong, you got to kind of kill yourself. But on a 1 year, you can
make it a 50-year build-up, so you're dead by the time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Why not put it after you're already going to be 100 years away? It's exactly 100 years away.
Yeah, it's what I'm saying.
Yeah, just get those dollar bills, spend them, die, and then let everybody else deal with the aftermath.
We don't have dollar bills in Canada.
Dollar bills?
Dollar coins? Get those loonies.
That's right.
Go to another country and ask for change for a 5 by asking for 2 toonies and a loony, and look at the faces you get.
They'll think you're fucking loony.
Yeah, because you are.
I'd like a toonie, please. Eh?
When you try to do a Canadian accent, that's really bad, Cory.
It's just my normal voice.
Your normal voice is kind of better.
I like hearing British people try to imitate Americans. It's really funny when they do it on talk shows.
Oh, it's creepy.
It is kind of
some of them are really good at it. And
yes.
Then, Hugh Laurie.
But it's still creepy.
Because they can sing them like Americans, so why can't they talk like Americans?
Sorry.
Yeah. All right, that is the end of religious nuttery.
Well, that's the end of your religious nuttery. After you got the notes, Dave also got a story.
Yeah, I did.
Dave's infringing on my turf.
Don't worry, there's lots of room to be nutty. Yeah, Cory gave me this awful story. Yours is at least interesting. Mine is just okay, fuck you. Yeah, so it's a story about some guy named Matt Powell.
Oh, yes.
And,
he's rather young, right?
Well, he's young and he has no following, so it's kind of interesting that, people should just kind of ignore him. But, I looked up his YouTube. He's a YouTuber. Apparently a pastor, although I'm not sure. I couldn't figure out where. I think just by his own kind of doing. But then again, I didn't watch all of his videos and get that detailed. But I looked at his website and I'm or his YouTube, and I'm I don't know what church you're in. I don't know what you're talking about. You have 500 subscribers. So anyway, really fringe young YouTube preacher guy. Was interviewed by John Gleason from The Godless Engineer, another YouTuber with much more of a following. John Gleason does, I guess, a few things by the looks of it. Anyway, Matt Powell has he has extremely crazy religious views.
Yeah.
He believes that we should humanely execute homosexuals. Humanely. Humanely, yeah.
Well, nice.
It's very nice of him, yeah. Because the Bible says it's a crime, and so, he says other things, in the article it mentions that he said he thinks all atheists are Coke-drinking video game addicts. I don't drink
Guilty.
Coke.
I drink Coke.
I don't drink
I don't
Coke.
play video games, but I
play video games the odd time. Well, he also wants women to stop dressing like whores, so if you if you could stop dressing like whores, I guess. I don't
we
know.
would like you to stop being an asshole.
So
I will agree to stop dressing like a whore.
How about we
when
stop
you
dressing
do
like whores when men stop sending dick pics?
yeah, well, there you
that
go.
too.
Okay.
I
all
have a
men-
laundry list of demands.
Well, I don't think.
And then I will absolutely stop dressing like a whore.
Matt Powell won't send you a dick pic, but he might send you a really boring YouTube video. Anyways, so he's kind of sucks. But this interview goes on about Matt Powell believing that this is the best one. So this is the cherry on top. It's a historical fact that dinosaurs were killed in the Civil War.
That's impressive.
The article is pretty short, and there's like a big video accompanying it with the interview. But anyway, you don't need to go down this rabbit hole if you don't want to. It's pretty weird.
It's fun and sad at the same time if you choose to do so.
Well, yeah. So there's this photograph apparently of Confederates who shot up a pterodactyl, and so that means it's
Photographs.
real. There's a photograph.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's actually in the article. So
Photograph.
yeah.
That's fantastic.
So anyway,
So you know it's real.
that's
Yeah,
evidence.
that's right.
But he goes on to this big, long, like, kind of just word salad thing about, I don't know, like, well, you know, this thing existed at this time, and then there was 100 years they didn't talk about it, but we saw this cave drawing, or I don't know. Like, it's just really stupid. Like, kind of the same logic ancient aliens would use to try to prove that there was ancient aliens. Like, so I don't know. I don't want to give him too much credibility here, and even in his thought process, because it's
Right.
You can watch if you want, but yeah, I think the main thing to take away from this is there's still crazy people out there who have some really bizarre beliefs. Like, this isn't even just like, hey, I want to take women's rights away, or I want to, blah, blah. This is like, hey, pterodactyls existed in the Civil War. I don't even know how to reply to that.
I don't know.
So, but it's pretty funny watching.
Were you at the Civil War, Dave?
Well,
How do
exactly.
you know?
Were you there when Brett Kavanaugh was drunk? Were you there? Yeah, see? No, I'm just kidding. No, just kidding. no, but actually there was a joke about there's a good meme online about this idea that everybody's so certain what happened when, I think I shared it, when Jesus was, everybody knows for sure what happened in Judea, but have a hard time believing what happened.
Oh, yeah.
With Matt Kavanaugh. Anyway, so that logic doesn't apply here, unfortunately.
Right.
It's a little different because we have evidence to tell us. We have lots of evidence, plenty of evidence to tell us when dinosaurs existed.
And it wasn't during the Civil War.
Yes, so those are false equivalence. See arguments, but yeah. So I don't know. Whatever, I guess, yeah. Oh, there's a discussion with Loch Ness Monster in this thing too, and I'm just like, whatever. I don't know.
Does he believe in the Loch Ness Monster?
I think so. Yeah, because there's a
That
photo.
would make sense.
Because, there's a photo of what looks like flippers.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, there's
That's
more than
right.
one photo actually.
It's a dark photo of a thing that looks like a thing
and
coming
it's
out of
double flippers too. That's the real clincher.
Oh.
If it was just one flipper, you could.
It could be something else. All right.
Anyways,
Yeah.
that's it.
Sounds like a fun article. I think part of the logo for this episode is going to have a pterodactyl on it.
Well, actually, you should probably use this photo because it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all like standing over a pterodactyl after they shot it.
Oh, nice.
It's totally real.
Totally not photoshopped, eh?
Yeah, because our technology isn't amazing now
No, that's right.
for editing photos.
I recently did an episode, the show notes for our website for an episode where the episode actually where you and Angela were in charge of the show.
I remember.
And I managed to Photoshop feet with high heels walking over top of New York City because we jokingly named the episode Sex in the City. So
Good for us.
I managed to Photoshop things.
Good job, Cory.
So at some point last year, feet walked on New York.
One day you will be as good at photoshopping as Dave is at pausing.
Yeah,
You can aim for that.
I'm pretty good at Microsoft Painting.
Good stuff.
Me too. Freaking love paint.
Yeah. Okay. Woo report.
Woo report.
I'm not a scientist, but if I can tell you your science sucks, then your science really
Is that
sucks.
Lisa?
That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit.
Fuck. This is me. This is my story.
Good. Fucking A.
So, this is a little bit more serious. Ideally, I would have had somebody to come on to discuss this who was involved with writing this paper, but I didn't have a chance to contact the Good Thinking Society. This paper is titled "Cancer Fundraising is Cancer Fundraising Fueling Quackery?" and it was written by Melanie Newman for BMJ.com. She is a freelance journalist in London, and she wrote this paper in conjunction with the Good Thinking Society. And they went through a series of crowdfunding sites in the UK, like GoFundMe and Just Giving, looking for cases of medical fundraising for our alternative cancer treatments. The numbers showed that since 2012, crowdfunding sites in the UK have raised £8 million, which is approximately $10 million for cancer treatment with alternative health elements. Just Giving showed more than 2,300 cancer-related appeals in the UK in 2016 as well. And a large percentage of that money was intended to go to Germany, which apparently has a lot of alternative health clinics. The Hallwang Private Oncology Clinic was getting most of it. And a lot of those people who raised money through crowdfunding went to Hallwang for a variety of tests and treatments with, experimental drugs or unproven therapies. And that includes a bunch of drugs that I cannot read. Yeah, I'm not even going to try.
Because you're on drugs.
But experimental immunotherapy, peptide vaccines said to train the immune system to attack cancerous cells, and unproved therapies, such as vitamin infusions. Yeah. So, I don't know. The paper also mentioned Stanislaw Brzezinski, who runs the Brzezinski Clinic in Texas and offers anti-neoplastin treatment, which has gone through trials for over a decade and costs patients thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And actually some officials in Texas have been trying to get that shut down, but have been unsuccessful for some reason. I got a quote from the paper saying, Good Thinking Society wants the crowdfunding sites to vet cancer appeals and reject outright proposals that refer to specific drugs that have been discredited. Extreme dietary regimes, intravenous vitamin C, alkaline therapy, and other alternative treatments. If a fundraiser is for a treatment for serious or life-threatening condition, such as cancer, it ought to be reviewed before it is sent live, especially if it contains terminology that raises red flags for quackery. I'm a little torn on this. There's a couple other quotes from other physicians in here, but I'm a little torn on this because these people, they're going to go to these quacks, I think, to some degree either way. And if they don't have the funding through crowdfunding sources, I don't know, would they go to these people? Would they ultimately end up selling off their houses and all their possessions? Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. That's the thing. I think they're ruined either way.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, it depends. If the money is easily gotten, is more easily gotten through crowdfunding than by selling all your shit. I mean, that kind of selling all your shit is a disincentive. I would think fewer people would be willing to go that far versus taking free money from friends and family and strangers. So
I think a lot do both because the cost of these clinics are just so high.
It's really, I've seen friends and people on Facebook who will, have some random weird thing, and only surgeon who was willing to try is in California, and you get it, and the province won't pay for it, but maybe, and then, and I work in healthcare and I read these, and I remember a friend posted something and I was just really curious, and I just ended up doing a ton of research on their crazy rare condition, and I guess this is a real thing, and this other therapy might maybe work. It's a real doctor, but the reason healthcare isn't paying for it's totally unproven. It's kind of out there. So should I give $10 or shouldn't I? Like, I don't know. Like, and I mean, this is me like really deciding to dig into it for an hour, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the average human, the average person, like just can't, you know what I mean? Like your grandma on Facebook is just gonna be like, oh, just give them $5.
They don't have the information to,
right?
Yeah.
Like it's, and it can be really hard to tell real stuff from
not
and real stuff.
There's also the line between like experimental stuff that could work and like outright quackery, right? Like that's just taking advantage of people.
Yeah,
Like,
like there's
my woo meter goes off if you're not participating in a clinical trial. If you're a medical center that is trying to get a treatment out there and it's a clinical trial and it's a legit thing that you're thinking might actually work, then fine. But if it's been something like the neoplastids, whatever, that's years and years and you just thoroughly debunked, utter nonsense. It's nothing but predatory and awful.
Yeah.
You guys are so negative. You must be alkaline, probably. Or the other one. You guys basic? Basic?
Yeah, I think your blood pH is actually
acidic.
7.4. So
yeah.
Isn't it?
Alkaline means basic.
Oh, you're not a
and also it has
scientist,
nothing to do
though.
with positive and negative. It has to do with
actually am.
We have 2 scientists.
Yeah.
but alkaline like it's like the middle is 7, neutral is 7. You never go negative.
You're so acidic tonight.
Sure. It'd be like a lower pH than 7.
Yeah.
But never negative. It doesn't go negative.
Yeah,
That's not how that
is
works.
the max.
I'm very positive.
Then you would be acidic.
Or basic, because you know what? They're both positive numbers.
No. But if you're acidic, you have more protons, and those are positively charged, so you'd be more positive.
There you go.
Not?
I don't think so.
I don't know. I know that
I don't,
your body is in a certain range of alkaline, and if you are outside of that range, then you are dead.
You're fucked. And it's like tightly controlled.
Yeah.
That's true.
Do you need an alkaline
buffering
cleanse?
system.
You do not need an alkaline
Are you
cleanse.
sure?
I need to cleanse my alkalines real hard.
I'm going to do it.
But yeah, I mean,
But like as a big picture, relying on these sites then to vet the medical procedures, like that's
Well, and that's what they said.
Yeah.
We're not
onerous on
qualified.
them. Yeah, and
And my thought is, even if they like just shut down all medical one, just because they don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole, some other giving site is going to crop up and
of
say,
course,
we'll
or people would, they
niche
said
dollars.
we're gonna investigate all of them that talk about like a specific treatment. Well, then they would just not mention the specific treatment and just make it vague. Like there's nothing that can stop it almost.
The solution is cutting off the root cause, right, and getting rid of the quacks. And
Another thing would be to make it positive and say that it's rather than saying we're going to ban this, that, and the other thing, say, oh, well, if anything medical related has to go through some sort of peer review process where like by an actual group of physicians do it, but that would be very expensive and time consuming.
Yeah, and usually you can get health coverage for that. So I guess I understand if people have zero health coverage.
Well, there is, like, I don't know I don't know in the UK, but certainly it's the case in Canada where there will be certain, like, you can find exception, like where, whatever, a certain treatment for deafness is, you can get it in Nova Scotia, but you can't get it in Saskatchewan because the government, the way somebody will have a really, poor prognosis for their cancer, but there is technically this thing that they could try, but they don't, their staging means that it's not really quite the right thing, but the doctor says, hey, we might as well try it anyways. And if I could, I would, but it costs $20,000 and the province won't pay for it. Like that kind of shit happens.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing.
it's really hard, like unless you're an expert.
Yeah.
And when
just
things
feel
become
terrible for the people going through it, obviously.
I mean, some shit's pure quackery, but some, like really cutting edge treatments are. Crazy. In fact, if you ask the experts, there may be disagreement. You go to a conference and you talk to, a group of 300 doctors, and they may be arguing with each other about whether or not it should be tried for a certain cohort of patients. So, I mean, it's.
Yeah, I don't know.
Very hard.
Well, it's your article. What should they do?
Yeah, Cory.
Well, I mean, the Good Thinking Society and multiple other skeptics endorse the idea of just vetting whether or not this is considered a proven treatment or not.
So, or even
So
like
if
making
it's-
a list of
if
known
consensus
quackery or what?
is if the consensus is if they say, oh well, okay, here's the treatment you want, and here's the consensus of doctors that we checked in with, and it says that it's not even a thing, then that person's left in the lurch, I guess. So even if it is an experimental procedure, they might just say no.
Do you think these sites could follow the efficacy of the people they support and the treatments that they do, and then go back to somebody and say, look, the last 50 people who did this
Died. Yeah.
seriously,
Yeah.
could they not do that and say, look, I'm sorry, we want to help you, but the last 50 people who raised money for this died, so you're actually just giving money to a
It's
clinic that's not helping
very
anybody.
hard to get that kind of clear-cut results from a non-controlled,
Yeah.
not underpowered,
And actually, I
non-study.
listened to Michael Marshall, who was part of the Good Thinking Society, on their show Skeptics with a K, and he talked about looking for news articles about these particular people after the fact to see if they got treatment, see if they died, looking through obituaries, looking through various sources, and he said it was like really hard to find any kind of post.
So even like
crowdfunding
clinical
sources.
trials designed to
Right.
sign patients up and follow them prospectively through their treatment,
Yeah.
even then the results are often ambiguous and difficult to find the patients, and you lose, and then you don't have the privacy issue, and you have access to their medical records and blah, 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 blah. Even then. Sorry.
Right.
So I don't know.
I withdraw.
So it's tough.
I withdraw my
I'm
recommendation.
sorry. Well, it's not that it's just it's just complicated.
It's just incredibly tough to keep.
Lisa just dropped her mic.
I didn't drop my mic. I'm sorry, dude.
You don't wreck
listen
them.
to him.
You don't want to wreck those.
I wouldn't do that to you.
They're pretty. They're tanks.
All right, I'm doing it.
SM58s. They can handle it.
But I did think that this was an interesting look at the way that crowdfunding money does tend to go to alternative treatments. Like conventional treatments that are proven to work often are covered by insurance or the country of origin. Like we have cancer treatment here that is covered by our government. So the only reason that it wouldn't be is because it's not proven to work.
Yeah.
Well,
And
no,
people do-
but that's not entirely true, though, because, like I said, sometimes you get stuff that's like, well, if we were in the States and you had a lot of money, like a real doctor would say, yeah, let's try it because there's really nothing else for you to try.
Right.
It probably won't work, but, whereas
Why
the
not?
government's
Yeah.
not willing to throw $50,000 at it a week, for you to try this experimental thing that will almost certainly not work, but is your only real choice. Like, I mean, unfortunately,
Yeah,
they're
so
always
much
making
gray
these
area.
choices between, like, which drugs to cover and what
Right.
will, I mean, we have this discussion at work all the time. We just had one the other day. We're talking about it's not a life or death thing, but it's a quality of life thing where you can really reduce toxicities from radiation for prostate cancer, but it costs $3,000 a patient. And we're like, well, we don't know if we can get funding for that.
Right. Yeah. Is that a thing that can
But
happen?
if somebody came to me, if a loved one came to me and said, hey, I have prostate cancer, should I get this thing to make my toxicity lower? I'd say, yes, I think rectal bleeding is bad. So I think you should go
Give it a
get
go.
that in the States if you could afford it, because
Note to self.
it's better. To self, rectal bleeding. I should have saved it for the rec table. I'm so stupid. No, but really, like, so yeah, that's an example of something I could be like, no, I think that actually the other thing that's not covered by the province is better. And maybe in 5-10 years when it's shown to be like, it's universally shown to be really good and it's a standard of care, then we'll get it, right? But healthcare is a slow moving beast, especially in a bureaucracy where socialized medicine is the case. So and things are always changing. So it is certainly, if it's something like, if somebody's trying to fundraise and they're trying to go to an actual hospital somewhere else with actual doctors, it's not necessarily quackery. It may just be that we just don't quite have that,
It's not. We're just not there.
You can't
And then
discount
there's-
everything, unfortunately.
There's travel and accommodations and stuff like that, and loss of income if they have to travel.
Like sometimes we will actually pay for somebody to go get like advanced treatment in the States that we don't have in Canada. Like that's
right?
especially like pediatric patients and stuff where
wow.
it's really beneficial, and like we just don't have the numbers to justify having that facility. I'm thinking like for I work in radiation therapy. I would like proton facilities, so we don't do proton treatments here.
Okay.
Like our machines cost like $3 million each, but those things cost like $50 million each, and it would only benefit a small number of patients. So occasionally we'll pay for a pediatric patient or somebody else to go down to the States and get it because it's better. It's it's better for you. We can't justify it. It's just not.
Are you positive that you don't do proton therapy?
We have protons, but they're in atoms in our bodies and floors and stuff.
Okay. I think that's sufficient. Let's go to science.
Science. If you base medicine on science, you cure people. If you base the design of planes on science, they fly. If you base the design of rockets on science, they reach the moon. It works. Bitches.
Yes, science.
Where's your notes?
I have them right. I don't have notes. I'm not you, Mom. You're making us all look bad. You had like questions for the guy we interviewed and shit. You'd heard of him before. And anyways, okay. I'm not cool that way. I have an article I actually read though. It's from The Atlantic. Maybe I have like a group. First, I'm gonna ask you guys a group question. Where did vibrators come from? Who invented vibrators?
Doctors,
right? That's what everyone thinks. Dave, do you agree?
I was going to say a man of some sort.
Right. Well, the myth is the common. I shouldn't say myth because I'm giving it away. But the common thought is that they were invented in Victorian times by doctors who like the women were going to them with hysteria, right? And then they would like get the women off, but then it was like too much work, so they invented vibrators, right? So that's what we've all been told for years. But turns out, quote, a favorite anecdote about the origins of the vibrator is probably a myth. So this is because I thought, okay, so this is an article. It was in The Atlantic by Robinson Mayer and Ashley Fetters on September 6th, 2018. This is the myth of what's supposed to happen. And it is even given a rise to a Tony-nominated play, a rom-com starring Maggie Gyllenhaal, and even a line of branded vibrators. And even Samantha Bee did a skit about it. However, there is a new paper that contends that, in fact, this is probably totally false. It's probably a total myth. There's absolutely no evidence that Victorian doctors use vibrators to stimulate orgasm in women as a medical technique, basically. No evidence for it. Okay, so how did this become into the popular thought? Okay, so back in 1999, a lady named Rachel Maines wrote a book called The Technology of Orgasm, and that's where this whole idea of Victorians inventing vibrators came to be. And she described the secret history of female sexual arousal and argued that it was happening from the time of Hippocrates. However, when these two people, Lieberman and Schatzberg from the School of History and Sociology at Georgia Tech, did an investigation, what they did is they looked at this book and they looked at her sources. They look, you write an academic book and you write your citations. There's a reference section and a bibliography. But when they actually went to look in there, it turns out that Maines fails to cite a single source that openly describes the use of vibrator to massage the clitoral area, their paper says. None of her English language sources even mention production of paroxysms by massage or anything else that could remotely suggest an orgasm. So Maine conceals this lack of support by relying on wink and nod approach to primary sourcing, and by padding her argument with a mass of tangential citations. So it's interesting because then when they interviewed Maines for this article, she's like, I never claimed to have evidence that this was really the case. What I said was this was just an interesting hypothesis. And as the authors of the new study point out, correctly, I think, people fell all over it. So basically, but that's actually not the case. If you look at how the 1999 book was read, she wrote it like, oh yeah, no, definitely the Victorians invented vibrators and they did that and for sure. And now she's like, no, I wouldn't say it was for sure. I just, I said it's my hypothesis, but it could not be, but it totally wasn't written that way. But what I think is most interesting about this story is how I mean, even in science, ideas like that can percolate. And I mean, this happened to me when I was doing research too. I'd be reading a paper and it would say, well, as everyone knows, like galaxies, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, and then there would be like a little citation. And if I actually went and looked up the paper, which nobody ever does or rarely do, then you go and look at it, you're like, this paper doesn't fucking say that at all. And then you look at the papers that thing says, no. And then it turns out you can never find the fucking paper that definitively shows that galaxies do blah, 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 because it's never been definitively shown. And this is kind of what happened here. So she just kind of, she'll look, I'm going to find an example here. She would use things like really, like, I don't know.
Really?
Okay, here's a good one. In one passage, Maines alludes to a technique described in the 1660 by the British surgeon Nathaniel Highmore. The original quote, translated from Latin, described a movement that, quote, is not unlike that game of boys in which they try to rub their stomachs with one hand and pat their heads with the other. So Maines said this was a reference to the difficulty of producing orgasm through vulvular massage. So she kind of took quotes that were like you'd really, really, really have to be digging in order to find a sexual nature to this, or to get vulvular massage from that. And that's what, but she didn't, but in her book, she just said, oh, clearly this is implying this, but nobody ever actually looked into the sources. So I think, it just goes to show that in science, you have to, or in social sciences, in this case, you actually have to check people's references. I mean, this is just an example of something that people really got taken away with this idea because it's a fun, sexy thing. Like, wow, Victorians they were so stodgy and they invented vibrators. Well, no, like they didn't. So it's just interesting. I thought it was super interesting. So
what I thought the most interesting part of all of that was picturing being a doctor in those ages. Oh, another woman comes in. Oh, she's hysteric. All right.
But I don't think
get your pants down.
Well, the idea is that they didn't
this.
think about it this way, right? But like,
right.
It turns out it never fucking happened.
Like,
it's not a thing. There's
so
no evidence that it happened.
There's
evidence
that
evidence that it
doctors
happened.
ever stimulated their patients to orgasm as a treatment for hysteria.
Correct.
I have an entire view of the medical time back then to recalculate.
Yeah, me too.
I'm sorry, guys.
I hate changing my mind. Don't you hate changing your mind?
Don't change your mind if you don't want to, but there's no evidence for what you're thinking.
Well, as a skeptic, now we have to relearn this shit.
We can't.
Corey, next episode, can you do the research and just regurgitate it to me, please? I don't want to have to learn it.
I'm just going to have to
You got 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Go.
That's right. No,
thank you, Lisa.
That is really interesting.
I thought it was interesting. I thought it's a sexy way to show that you got to check your sources.
Sexy. Maybe you can Photoshop a vibrator in the Civil War.
Yeah.
maybe pterodactyls use them.
Next to the pterodactyl.
It's too bad that's not too long for a title. A sexy way to show that you got to check your sources. That's too long.
Is it?
Yeah, maybe. I might be able to
check your sexy sources.
Check your sexy sources.
Something like that. I'll brainstorm it.
I don't know. Patting your head is not vulvular massage. I don't know. That could be a good.
It's the rubbing your tummy.
Rubbing your stomach is not vulvular. Yeah. Patting your head is not vulvular massage. That's, I think, your title.
No, it's the. Oh, okay.
Whatever. People will be like, what the fuck? And they'll listen to the episode and be like, I listened to the whole episode for that. Fuck you, Corey.
I had to go 4 hours.
Too late. You already listened to it, asshole. Sucker.
That's right. You downloaded it. No, thank you for downloading our.
Truly, we do appreciate it.
Also, fuck you.
All right, Sarah, what do you have?
I have an article from Science-Based Medicine entitled "A Recent Case Report Highlights Why Skipping the Chickenpox Vaccine is a Bad Idea."
This doesn't sound funny.
No, not.
Wait, is the answer so that you don't get chickenpox?
Yeah, basically.
I predicted it from the title.
Yeah, kind of. So, I mean, it goes through some history prior to the vaccine. 4 million cases annually, typically. Of these, around 11,000 were admitted to the hospital. 80% of which involved healthy kids, and that's kind of the interesting thing about chickenpox is that lots of other diseases, only hit the weak and feeble. But these were healthy kids. And about 100 people died per year. Vaccine came out in 95, and after a few years, cases dropped by over 70%. By 2005, the drop was 90%. They put out a booster in 2006 to help offset, as with any vaccine, there are some people who just don't develop immunity, so that extra dose kind of helped that kick in the pants. So it's a super effective vaccine. And what it's basically talking about is a terrible story of a varicella-associated stroke in an 11-month-old who was unvaccinated, too young to be vaccinated, who had varicella 2 to 3 months before, and saying, he may end up with additional neurological difficulties down the road. So the article is basically saying, this is an extreme example of what can happen with chickenpox, even though it's seen by a lot of people of our generation as not that bad because we all kind of had it, and you're itchy, you just get some spots, yada yada. It's not a big deal. So it's saying, well, it is a big deal, but for me, when I kind of try to advocate for vaccines, I want to sometimes go the opposite because I think that's almost fear-mongering, and if you're an anti-vax, you're not hearing it anyways, right? And I mean, I don't think you can convince anti-vaxxers either way, but you can get the fence sitters, right? Like people are with flu vaccine and chickenpox. It's like, well, it's not the best. They'll hem and haw on that one. I don't think I need it. Yeah, like if polio was making a comeback, I think more people would be like, yeah, actually, I'll take that one. But it's like, well, chickenpox, like that's not a big deal. Da da da. Okay, but like getting slapped on the face isn't a big deal either, right? Like, but right. Really, like your face is going to sting for like 20 seconds, and like I'll apologize and you'll get over it. Yeah. But if I walk up to a parent and say, "Can I just slap your kid real quick?" But if you don't want me to, just hit this button. I really truly hope, and I'm not a parent, so I do not know, but I really truly hope that most parents will be like, yeah, don't fucking slap my child. I
think it depends on the
I'll hit that. Right? So like even, but like, I remember being a very sickly child, and my mother would always, when she was tending to me and as I'm laying out on the couch so sickly, she'd be like, if I could do anything to take this pain away from you and put it into me, I would. And I like to believe that most parents are like that. So you're all like, I don't know if I'll get the chickenpox vaccine. You're basically saying you're okay with your kids suffering. Yeah. Even if it's even if you get a mild case, it's still a shitty thing. Yeah. Same with the flu. Same with like,
you're a really good parent, even hypothetically compared to me. Because I'd be like, I don't fucking want to take care of that kid when he's sick for 2 fucking weeks. Fucking whining, crying, and I don't sleep. Fuck you. Fuck that shit.
Yeah. No, like who wants that? And then the other side is like, even if chickenpox isn't that bad, shingles is fucking horrible. Yeah. If you can get this vaccine that stops your kid from being slapped in the face now and being thrown down the stairs later, why are we not doing that? Yeah, do that. So I mean, there's always going to be cases. Even people die of the flu every year, but I've never gotten the flu. Da da da. Just like, even if it just gives you a 20% chance of not having it, that's a 20% chance
they
better.
Have never gotten the flu is wrong.
Well, okay. So, I mean, just to play devil's advocate, I mean, there's always trade-offs with any vaccine or any sure. even a screening program, right? What could be so wrong? They're saying we should screen women for cervix cancer only give them a pap only every 3 years instead of 1 year. Well, why wouldn't we just do it every 1 year? Well, actually, no, because if you did, if you're trying to do more, you do more tests, then you get more false positives, and then you end up doing more invasive tests, and then that's why they came up with the 3 year thing, because it seemed to be the best balance between false positives and catching the real thing. Right. So same thing with vaccines. Technically, there are risks, but the risks are so much smaller than even the small risks you get with chickenpox, right? So I mean, chickenpox doesn't typically hurt people too bad when you get it, but I mean, of course, you're suffering; it's uncomfortable. But there's going to be some who develop complications from this, especially if you're going to hospital. Risks of infection, blah blah blah. I mean, like there's going to be shit that goes down. So I mean, what they're saying is that those risks are, even though they're not likely to happen, those are still way, way, way more than the risk from the vaccine.
Right. Okay. So if one was to do an actual analytical risk-based analysis.
I'm sure they did. I'm
100%. Yeah.
Right.
You have to in order to get a drug approved.
That's how that works. They did that. Yeah. That's a thing that happens.
Oh, that's how that works. Okay.
So here's a question. Here's a question for the group. Is the so-called term vaccine injury, is it real? Because
You can have a bad reaction to a vaccine. You can be allergic to a component of a vaccine. And I've seen after someone getting a flu shot, someone faint, but that may be because they were terrified of needles.
Okay, but what about the more...
what term did you use? Sorry, say that again.
Vaccine injured.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever heard a doctor use it.
It's not a
I don't know it's a medical term.
Yeah.
It's an anti-vaxxer term, maybe.
There have been court cases that have been awarded.
Civil court cases.
Okay, so...
Yeah.
Talk to
Usually
me about
with juries
burden of proof is not beyond a reasonable doubt.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's
you
what
can
I wanted.
basically get money for, because if there's something wrong with you, if they developed epilepsy or autism or something where it shows up at the age of childhood years that you're getting most of your vaccine, that's just an incidental thing. If you didn't vaccinate your kid at all and they were going to get those diseases, they would get them anyways.
And that seems so absolutely ridiculous.
Correlationally, they'll say
court cases have been awarded based on that. How is it so possible that any civil court could have such a low burden of proof and not seem to understand correlation causation at all?
It's like sympathetic, right? You're a parent and you're saying, look at my poor.
So are you saying a jury was
injured
child by this?
Well, that's actually the trouble with, and I mean, I'm not an expert by any stretch, but I've listened to legal podcasts, and they say that the term beyond a reasonable doubt is only it's a very subjective term. So you could have a jury of a dozen people, and for them, beyond a reasonable doubt is I heard them and they said that and I believed them.
Yeah. It's beyond that jury's reasonable doubt.
Yeah. So it's very subjective. It's not like a strict, when we think of science, they have these guidelines and you got to meet these guidelines. It's not like that.
So if a parent cries and shows their autistic child and how they used to be so happy and now they're so despondent, and they cry and they're very passionate about it, and then it's happened within weeks of the vaccine.
And it all went downhill after
I'd be
that
the most
fateful
annoying juror.
I think I would too.
A skeptic would be.
And we would all be thrown out because they would want nothing to do with us.
Steve Novella on the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe once got called for jury duty, and he said he got dismissed right away. As soon as they find out that you're a skeptic of any kind, they just go, oh, well, you're going to be asking too many questions. We're going to be fighting with you. There's no point.
He's like a neurosurgeon, too.
Yeah.
You think you'd want this guy? Or is he a neurologist? Does he operate on people?
He doesn't operate on people.
He's a neurologist.
Yeah.
I've had respect for him before. Now I'm just fuck. All you are is a neurologist, a brain doctor. Go fuck yourself, Steve.
Just knows stuff, but doesn't cut people up.
Lame.
I really want to be called for jury duty one day. Anyone been on jury duty?
No, I haven't.
I have never.
I don't.
Do you think we're tagged as just don't call for jury duty?
Yeah, I think at this point it must be.
You can be pre-disqualified?
Yeah.
If that's possible. Interesting.
I'd be okay with some white collar fraud or something, but I don't want to be traumatized by any horrible.
Oh yeah, that's true.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, that wouldn't be any fun.
So have you seen the new Government of Canada ads that just came out promoting that are pro-vaccine? It's kind of sad that it's come to it that we have to spend our tax dollars to remind people that vaccines save lives. I think the ads, it was on YouTube, but it said something like, you care about your children. We do too. And then it's vaccinate your kids, Government of Canada. And I was kind of taken aback by it because it just kind of shows how far the anti-vax movement has come. It's something like, was it 10% now of kids are not vaccinated? Is that?
Oh my God, that's terrifying. Because for some vaccines, I'm pretty sure MMR, you need really high vaccination.
It was 96 or something like that.
That's the one everybody's scared of.
When I was in Ontario, you had to show your kid had their vaccines in order to put them in daycare. I don't know because we didn't get all the way to school, but I believe you had to do it for school too. So I think if provinces want that, they need to say, okay, you don't have to vaccinate your kids, but if you want to access the public education system, they have to be vaccinated.
And I think Australia.
Problem solved.
Yeah, I think Australia is doing it. You can't get your tax benefits or your welfare checks or your daycare subsidy or all of that. You can't get those any child benefits. You can't get unless you show you're vaccinated.
No pay.
But exactly. But the problem is with schools and stuff, you're allowed religious exemptions and medical exemptions. If you're allergic to a component of the vaccine, you're exempt. That's totally legit. obviously I don't think a religious exemption is okay. But if you're a strong anti-vaxxer, you're just going to claim that.
Well, but
and
even,
no one's going to call you on it because they don't want to, you can't question someone's religious beliefs.
But
right?
even a small disincentive can, like, even something like having to fill out a form or something, go jump through some red tape, even that would definitely
to protect my babies from the autisms, I will fill out 20 million
but depends. I know, but it depends how hardcore. But I think some people are just kind of like, well, I didn't.
Yeah,
I
you'll
wasn't
fix the
sure.
fence sitters, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I mean, I think you could definitely. There's some. I mean, in Australia, they also fine you if you don't vote. I believe it's $20, but they also have like 96% voter turnout. Like it doesn't take a lot of incentives or disincentive in order to get like a massive change because people are petty.
That's interesting. I've heard some people argue against the mandatory voting thing because it unfairly punishes the poor if they can't vote for some reason. And
so make it a certain percentage of your taxable income. Make it like 0.0001%. So for a poor person, it's $5, and for a rich person, it's $50.
Any fine will make it be like, okay, well, I'd rather go vote than fine. I'd rather go vaccinate
than
to
do anyways.
Do this. Yeah.
Yeah. Anti-vaxxers are just the bane of my existence. So.
Yeah, they're pretty much the worst.
It's really like I just don't know what to say a lot of the time. I gave up a while ago.
Yeah, but the movement is growing. So what are we supposed to do?
Well, like you can only really get the fence sitters, the people that are just like hearing stuff and maybe partially believing. Like, well, I don't know. I hear everybody saying that you get autism from these vaccines, and those are the people, the ones that are absolutely convinced and are just rabid about it.
Yeah, you're not going to convince Sherry Tenpenny or fucking whatever that other doctor's name was.
I thought you just made that name up.
Yeah. No, she's from Australia. She's a big anti-vaxxer.
Sherry Tenpenny or Julie.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stories published sometimes of like I was an anti-vaxxer mom until all of my 5 children got mom's hermes, whatever it was, and like now she's getting them all up to date on the vaccines, but. Again, there's news stories that say atheists converted back to whatever they found Christ. So it's like that doesn't convince people as much as it should, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm terrified. Like I don't have kids yet, but we're thinking about maybe doing that sort of thing. So I'm terrified to raise children.
My kids
You're
are all
thinking about
vaccinated.
maybe doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't recommend it.
Yeah, I've heard
overrated.
Yeah, I've heard mixed reviews, so we're gonna.
It's only got 3.7 stars on Yelp.
Yeah, that's right.
Procreation.
Yeah, it's so
Procreation. Meh.
But it's like, is it like, am I a terrible human being for simultaneously not wanting to bring a child into this world, but also being like, but we have to have some children raised by rational parents in the world, so I feel a duty to procreate. Like, is that like?
Ultimately, it doesn't matter. Okay. We're all gonna die, and the world's gonna burn in.
I think you should only have a kid if you want one.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm getting at. We want to, but we're not going to be like. Yeah, we have to. I'm not going to have 10 of them.
I have 2 kids, and daily I am thinking, what have I done to them? I brought them into this world, and they're doomed, and it's awful, and it's.
But maybe they'll be the ones that make it better, right?
Well, I mean, hopefully, but.
See, because I ideally think, what are you doing to me? Stop throwing shit at other kids.
Yeah,
Sarah, my kids are perfect. Nothing like theirs. My kids will make the world great, as will yours. So have kids.
Yesterday, my kid called some other kid's mom fat because the other kid called me fat.
Damn,
that's what kids are.
It's
really
just a little bit of water weight, okay, people? Jesus, kids.
You should be proud of your kids' loyalty.
I think it was. I never heard him call anybody fat before until somebody called me fat, and I think it was like outrageous to him.
Like it would
I love my mommy. Fuck you.
It's way worse if he was like, yeah, kinda. She's getting a little chunky. Yeah,
no, he wouldn't say that.
Okay,
no, he is like, no, he wouldn't.
And even if you were fat, like
my kids call me fat all the time.
Not
Mom,
cool.
right?
Not cool.
My daughter got in trouble for telling a boy that he is not her best friend.
She got in trouble for that?
Yeah.
What?
That is a hurtful thing to say. If he thinks he's her best friend.
No, it was like
that's a low blow.
it was like I don't want to play with you, and then it was like why not? Because you're not my best friend.
Okay.
And she got in trouble for that.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that.
yeah.
My kid got in trouble for saying the word damn.
I could get on board with not necessarily agreeing with that. I told her. I told her two things. I said you don't have to play with anybody that you don't want to.
No.
And I also said a person doesn't have to be your best friend
To play with them. Agreed.
Yeah,
I don't want to play with you.
that's
You
obviously
could be my
true.
best friend. I just don't want to play with
It
you.
seems
And
wrong to
at
tell
this
them that they're not.
Yeah,
No,
it's an
of
interesting. You gotta have a balance, right? You gotta be like, okay, well, nobody can force you to do things. You shouldn't be forced to do things you don't want to.
Yeah, you don't have
but
to give
you
rationale
also
for not playing
should
this.
be considerate of people and take their feelings into
Yeah,
consideration.
no, that's true. So damn, really? Wow. I only get think notes home if it's like, your child told the teacher to fuck off. And I'm like, oh, Lord.
No, get this. My son goes, I got in trouble at school today. I said, or he said, this guy told me he's not my friend anymore. And I said, why? And he goes, because he was kicking me under the table. The teacher caught him and told him that he had to stop. So then after the kid got in trouble, he got mad at my son and said, you're not my friend anymore because you didn't tell me to stop kicking you. And I go,
wait a second.
I go, how does that make any sense? Like, so I told my son, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. He goes, I know.
I don't know how to help
It's
you
a
with that
low
problem,
level
buddy.
of personal responsibility. I'm not afraid of the kid there.
I was like, okay, next time he's kicking you, tell him to stop. I don't know.
I mean, I guess that's
right.
good life advice in general. If someone's kicking you, you tell them to stop. But
I just thought it was hilarious.
I
Like
think you're
he's in
responsible to do so.
grade 1 trying to navigate these social issues. I'm like,
God.
oh, this is wait till you're in grade 7, buddy. Grade 6. I remember those years.
I mean, since we're talking about parenting, I read the book Everyday Sexism by Laura Bates, and I had to go to my daughter and I was like, I'm really sorry for the way the world's going to treat you. I wish I could save you from it, but I can't.
That's sad.
It's
How old is
tough. She's 12.
Oh, yeah, right. And
Did she say, thanks a lot, Dad?
No, she's like, what do you mean? I'm like,
you're just barely young enough to not know, but it's right around the corner, honey.
Yeah,
I'm very
it's-
sorry.
I said, the world is not nice to girls. And I wish that it was. And I wish that I could do something about it, but I will help you when I can.
You know, I think it would be even more useful thing to say to, like, it would have been more useful to say to me, I guess, at that age would be just do your thing. You know,
Yeah.
like don't worry about whether you're a girl or not. Just do your thing. But when you notice that things aren't fair for you, like the way, like, or aren't the same for you, or you're not being treated the same way as the boys are, it's not your imagination. You're not
Right.
crazy. That
You're
would
not
be
crazy.
that would be the
Yes.
thing to be useful.
Yes.
That would
I
be the most
remember
useful thing.
in high school, Dan, I don't know if you remember this, but they gathered us all in the theater and they were talking about having a separate math class for the girls and the boys.
Really?
Would
Yeah.
they buy the 1993 Barbie where she goes, math class is hard?
But like that
It's
basic.
famous, but it's
I
hard
don't-
to get. It's
I
very
mean,
I don't
rare.
remember that.
Well, yeah, again, probably
I want
because
one
you
so
were just viscerally offended. Like, because I was a smart girl. I was like, it was me and like Tristan or whatever that were always, and Nathan Burrell and whatever.
Excuse me,
And you were up
I
there
won
too.
grade 10 math award, so
Yeah.
I found
I still
that
have the plaque.
It was so that because I didn't like pay attention to gender thing. I was like, I'm doing my thing. I want to be in this class. I'm going to be in the class and whatever. But then I remember like kind of like sitting up in grade 12 physics and looking around. I'm like, I am the only white girl in this class. Like, this is weird. There were 2 other brown girls and me, and the rest of it are boy. Like, what the?
Yeah,
they were
see,
so
what
stupid
grade was
before.
that?
What the? That was grade. For me, it was grade 12.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Do you remember when the boys used to be really dumb? And then, like, suddenly they're
You
all
mean
in all your
forever?
smart classes.
You mean forever? Yeah.
But no, suddenly they're all in your physics class, and you're like, but you guys are all so stupid. I'm so confused. I remember really being confused. Like, whatever.
I don't know. I was so
their
self-centered.
grades.
I didn't even really notice who else was in the room. Like, I didn't take stock.
I didn't until grade 12. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. No, it was there. I mean, it was well intentioned, if you want to call it that. They were saying, lots of girls don't feel comfortable coming forward with questions or showing that they're good at math because, traditionally women are told they're not good at math. Like, it was like weird, like that would make a special class for you so that you'd feel comfortable doing math stuff. I'm like, well, are we going to be learning the same things? Like, are they going to get the better math class and we're in the dumb girl math class? Because I'm not okay with that. Like, I want to go to university and I want to be a scientist and fuck that shit.
How many cups are in a liter?
Yeah, right? How much starch do you need to mix in a load of laundry? Like, yeah, so I
we got to laugh at it.
That I don't know.
I don't know that my son
Never
knows
used
that.
starch in my life.
Did you have girl math teachers or boy math teachers?
We
only had
Donna
girl. We had
L. Donna L.
I
we had
didn't
all
have her.
female math teachers except one.
Hubick.
In high
Hubick
school,
was senior math.
Yeah.
That's a guy.
Yeah. Love how you remember all these people. I
that's all I
blocked
remember is
so much
Ella.
of high school apparently because that's like what even happened.
Did you know that when you move to Regina, you find out that people from Regina, when they meet each other, ask each other what high school they went to?
What's
it's like a thing.
and
you
like
guys do.
still
that's a
like I'm
thing.
34.
You guys do that here.
I
It's
think
really
it-
weird.
I think it must
every
be
other place,
that-
like, what do you do for a living? No, here it's like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. What high school did you go to?
Yeah.
Because we're like a medium-sized city. There's few enough high schools that you can ask someone, and you probably know someone that went to that high school. So if you know they're the same age as you, you're like, what high school did you go to? I went to O'Neill. Oh, do you know so and so? And
See, like this, I don't know. Anybody that
Fuckers
I
are
met
weird. I
in
don't care.
Where are
university
you
has
from?
never asked me that question. I only get that from like random strangers who didn't go to university because that's like, I feel like they're asking because that's where they peaked. I don't know. No, but like
it's a Regina thing.
like,
no,
no,
I know
yeah.
PhD level people who ask each other what high school they went to in Regina.
I've never experienced that. That's crazy. But like, I'm like almost 35.
I know.
It was Balfour, by the way. It's like the best school.
I just took
Fuck
off
Campbell.
of my
Oh my
LinkedIn
God,
profile
people.
where I went to high school.
I actually
like
did
a
go
year
to
ago.
Campbell here
took
in
what?
the city for a
Took it
little
off of
while.
my LinkedIn profile.
Oh, yeah.
It was
not-
one
just
of
doesn't
my
matter
brief
anymore.
stopovers during my travels through grade 12.
Yeah, I see it still on like job applications for people that are like in their 40s.
Yeah,
And,
you
like,
don't need your high
stop.
school on
Just
your
stop,
resume
yeah.
after like age.
As
I don't
well
know,
as like their high
25.
school job. And it's like, I really don't care how long you worked at McDonald's. Like,
Hey,
that's fine that
hey,
you did.
hey, don't bring up McDonald's. If you
But
worked
what-
at McDonald's, no. There's a lot of people that will hire you if you put that you worked at McDonald's because it's
Rite of passage.
But like
it's a rite
20
of passage.
years ago,
Yes,
why
doesn't
does it
matter. Well, especially if you worked there a long time because it shows that you can put up with shit.
Oh, okay.
You
yeah.
can take directions.
Okay, good
Yeah,
point.
it's a couple different things.
I just meant like their random high school job, and
Yeah,
they've had
okay,
like
so-
a career now
so shit
for
on
20
shit on
years.
Domino's or any other place
Yeah.
than McDonald's.
Okay,
McDonald's
yeah.
has this cult following that if the person that is hiring you worked at McDonald's, you will get hired specifically because you say
Interesting.
McDonald's.
I'm kind
Is
of
that
sad
right?
I didn't work at McDonald's. I worked at
Interesting.
other
It's a
Great
restaurants.
place. I worked there
at-
3 years, clearly.
I worked at A&W. I worked at Burger King. I did not work at
So you're
McDonald's.
screwed. You're never getting
Burger
hired.
King did you work at?
South End.
Oh, this is so
Which high school did you go to? Which McDonald's
Burger
did you work
King did you
at?
work at?
While I was going to Campbell
I always-
Collegiate in the South End.
I always shit on the Burger King people because they folded their burger wrappers so weird.
It was the brilliant fold.
Oh, no, it was so
That's
terrible.
why I wanted to work there.
I timed it with another guy, with a guy who worked at Burger King.
Fold
He
it
showed me-
over and over and flip and under.
I know,
for
and-
the
and-
listeners, this is the sound of the mic hitting my forehead.
And McDonald's was like this. Look, you just wrapped it and then fold, and it was done. It was so much better.
Oh, it's not fancy enough.
You're right. We do need video.
Yes.
We need video because we've got so many visuals.
fancy wrappers on my 99-cent cheeseburger. Yes.
If we hit $100 on Patreon per episode, I will buy a video camera.
What do you mean if?
Yeah, if.
You just did.
Nope.
You just did.
We just lost a $30 patron.
When?
Who was it? Oh, never
just
mind.
kidding.
Never mind. Sorry, I should have asked that. Let's Patreon shame them. It'll be great.
But we're at $72 per episode.
Wah, wah.
Wah, wah.
We're so close.
We were so close.
I don't really want the videos. I'm not putting any more money in.
Fair enough.
I look like shit one in the morning.
Maybe their credit card just
After a long day
expired
at
and we
work.
need to get it updated.
No, it specifically was deleted.
Are they listening still, you think?
I don't know.
Is it me?
Was it Destin Sucks?
We'll find. Actually, we can
good.
compare
He's my
today's
favorite.
episode list with
it's
last
true.
episode and find out who it was.
You know what, though, everyone, I mean, it might not have been us, right? Like, everyone's got different financial circumstances.
right.
Shit happens.
Yeah, of course.
Lose job.
I don't judge anybody. I feel like we have some room to gain now. Like, we have to make up that loss. But so,
do I get like 1/5 of the money from the proceeds from today's show?
Yes. All the profits get divided up
you can
between
give him
us all.
negative.
We're almost making enough to pay for the studio sessions.
All right, I'll bring out my wallet.
All right, so I guess we're going to call that the end of the Shift to Reason Radio.
Yes.
All right, let's cue that outro music. For all those things plus much more, you can check out the show notes at our website, brainstormblog.net, and our hosting page, thebrainstormpodcast.com. Thanks to our financial supporters, Kayla, Janet, Kim, Stephanie, Zach, the Utah Outcasts, Will, Aaron, Daryl, Destin Sucks, Bob Glenn, Destin Doesn't Suck That Much, Magnus, several species of small furry animals gathered together in a cave, positively skeptical, Rob, Keith, the Podunk Polymath, Larry, and the Flying Spaghetti Monster, sauce be upon him. If you want to join them and help the show grow, then you can do that at patreon.com/brainstormpodcast. Or you can go and buy stuff at tpublic.com/stores/brainstorm-podcast-gear. Join us every 2 weeks on brainstormradio.net. Our next live show is on October 12th, and our guests are Kevin and Benedict from This Week in News with Kevin and Benedict. I want to give a big thanks to Dusty for joining us. You can find more of his stuff at cultofdusty.com, so make sure to check that out. Thank you to my panel, Lisa, Dan, Sarah, and Dave.
You're welcome.
I guess.
Thanks to Dave for our intro music. Thanks to Aaron Rabbi from the Embrace the Void podcast for doing the intro for our voiceover. You can find his stuff at voidpod.com. Thanks to Alex Capper-Murdoch for doing the voiceover for our ads. And thanks to Jason Camo for our outro music. You can find his stuff at aloststateofmind.com. All music played is either with permission or under the SOCAN license to play. For more information on SOCAN, you can check out the music license info page on our website, brainstormblog.net. Remember to give us a rating, a thumbs up, or a fave on your podcatcher of choice. Join our Facebook group, like our page, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our subreddit, sign up for our newsletter, share the show, and spread the word. The more you share, comment, and like our stuff, the more it helps the show grow. Thanks for listening, and remember, the truth matters.
This is an opinion-based podcast. Each person on the podcast is responsible for their own opinions, and those opinions don't necessarily reflect the views of the rest of the panel, any guests, or anyone associated with the people on the podcast, such as spouses, partners, children, other family members, friends, or employers. No one person speaks for the podcast with the possible exception of Cory, and he doesn't speak for anyone else on the show. The Brainstorm podcast does not represent the views of our sponsors.